So if we look at the structure of the Earth, we'll see that it has slightly different layers. In the very middle of the Earth, there's something called the inner core, and then the outer core. So this is, obviously that middle part of the Earth is the core of the Earth. But then above the core is something called the mantle. So there's a mantle on the upper mantle, but it's this, more outer layer here of Earth. So the inner core is mainly composed of iron, and the mantle is really molten rock or magma. And magma is actually, it's very slightly viscous. So if you were to pour it, it would pour, but water would pour very quickly. Honey would pour quite slowly. Well, magma would pour really, really slowly, but it still would pour. So it moves ever so slightly over time. And then of course on the top of that we have the crust, and the crust is actually a very thin layer of the structure of the Earth. So it's more accurate over here. It's very, very thin. The crust is 5 kilometers, maybe 70 kilometers deep, whereas the entire this entire distance from the radius from the center of the Earth to the outside is actually a little bit over 6,300 kilometers. So a crust of only 5, 10, 50 kilometers is actually not very big. It's a very small area. It's like an apple skin on an apple. Now also when we think about the structure of the Earth, we can look at the temperatures here. So the temperature of the upper mantle is actually around about 500 degrees Celsius, but the temperature near the core of the Earth is more like 5,000 degrees Celsius. So you can see very different temperatures. Now it's interesting to think about the fact that the center of the Earth is hotter, and up near the surface of the Earth it's a little bit cooler, because these temperatures actually result in something called convection cells, which is convection currents. So of course this is shown over here. Hot things, hot particles will rise up. And so this is happening here. So the hotter magma is rising up to the surface, and then it cools back down, and so then it falls back down back to the hotter part, and this happens cyclically, keeps happening over and over again, and it forms these convection cells all around the structure of the Earth. And these convection cells, you can see that they kind of drag on that top layer of the Earth, on the crust of the Earth. And so here, this convection cell here is traveling in this direction in a circle. This convection cell here is dragging that crust in that direction. So it's dragging this crust this way and this crust that way. So these convection cells in the mantle of the Earth, with this magma which is very slowly moving, actually pulls or pushes the crust around on the surface of the Earth. And that's really quite a lot about the structure of the Earth. It's got a core, mainly iron in the middle, but then this magma mantle, and then the crust. And they actually interact. The magma, the mantle, and the crust interact, with each other. And that's really the structure of the Earth.